Welcome back to Financial Therapy. It's not just about the money. I'm personal financial planner, columnist, and financial therapist Rick Kahler. Research tells us that 90% of all financial decisions are made emotionally, not logically. For nearly 4 decades, I've been helping people make better money decisions. So what makes my financial worldview different from most financial experts? I blend the nuts and bolts of financial advice with the emotions that drive making them. Good money decisions are not just about the money. So let's get started with today's episode. Welcome back to another edition. And today I want to talk about financial well-being. And this really was spurred by a young lady who's in the digital world. I can't even describe what she does, but I'll call her a researcher, who found the podcast and was introduced to financial therapy, and that's something that she had really never heard that there was such a thing. And to talk about what does financial well-being look like. And it kind of took me by a little bit of surprise because nobody asked me what financial well-being looks like, right? We know what it doesn't look like. And I think that's what a lot of this podcast focuses on. I mean, it's, here's the 13 hurtful behaviors around money. And of course, we talk about how to heal behaviors, how to address money scripts and where they come from, and talk about financial trauma. But I've never talked about or had a container. Here's the bullseye. Here's what financial well-being looks like. So, as usual, my podcasts are unscripted. I had an associate just last week tell me, you need to go faster. You pause and ponder, and then you laugh at yourself, and could you follow a tighter script? I have to play you in 1.5 time. And then she showed me what 1.5 time sounds like. I sound like Mickey Mouse. And I said, well, I probably could do that, but that would change the whole nature of my podcast, because truly I sit down here and turn on the recording device and talk. And sometimes stuff comes out that I hadn't even thought about. So I have a lot more fun doing it this way, and it's kind of the brand. So if you need me to talk faster, just put me 1.5 times. And yeah, you can listen to the whole podcast instead of 28 minutes. And I don't know, doing that math, maybe 17 minutes. So a financial well-being, what is it? Like I said, versus what it's not. And I found a study on financial well-being in America that has some interesting data in it. And what it suggested is, as a country, we don't have a real solid financial well-being. They found about 1/3 of the country definitely does not have financial well-being. 1/3 of the country has minimal financial well-being, and 1/3 of the country probably could fall in the category of having financial well-being. They also found that financial well-being is not tied to any socio-demographic category. There's no strong correlations in regions of the U.S. that have more than another. There's not a difference in men and women. There's some slight differences in racial, ethnic groups, but nothing that is really large. They're all very small. It's not necessarily specifically tied just to income. People can have huge incomes and not have financial well-being as compared to somebody with a small income. And I don't know if I've ever said this on the podcast, but I once did financial planning for 2 people. One was a physician and one was a butcher. And at that time, this is a long time ago, maybe even 30 years ago, the doctor made $150,000 a year and could not save for an IRA. And that time, I'll tell you how long ago this was. The IRA was $250 a year. Could not save $250 out of a $150,000 salary. The butcher, on the other hand, who made about $2,000 a month, let's call it $24,000 a year, saved $800 a month and had a family of 4. And I would say between the two, certainly the butcher had financial well-being and the physician didn't. More recently, I had a client that had an income of $5 million a year and had a net worth of minus $3.5 million. So compare that to a couple I had both. I think she was a nurse, he was a janitor, and they had accumulated well over $500,000 in their lifetime. So it's all relative. But I think we can say that employment status, income, and educational attainment do have a strong relationship with financial well-being, but none of them on their own determine financial well-being. So what is it? What is financial well-being? I found a definition that I like. It says that financial well-being is a state of being wherein a person can fully meet current and ongoing financial obligations, can feel secure in their financial future, and is able to make choices that allow them to enjoy life. They went on to say more specifically, an individual's financial well-being corresponds to the extent to which a person feels they have control over their day-to-day and month-to-month finances, has the capacity to absorb a financial shock, and is on track to meet his or her financial goals, finally has the financial freedom to make choices that allows one to enjoy life. And I would suggest when we talk about that part of the definition, that where financial well-being allows a person to make choices that allow them to enjoy life, that perhaps we would add that has the money where their money supports their quest for meaning. But that starts to tie into emotional well-being, doesn't it? Because I think the quest for meaning in life is more tied to emotional well-being than financial well-being. So what does that suggest? That suggests perhaps emotional well-being can be tied, is tied. Certainly, you've heard me say over and over again that money is a 21st century survival skill. It touches everything we do, and our money supports our quest for meaning. Money does not give us our meaning in life, but it supports our quest for meaning. So can we have meaning? Can we have emotional well-being without money? Now, I imagine many of you would just instinctively say, well, yes, of course. And to some degree, I suspect that's true, but to a larger degree, I don't know. I think it's hard. I think it's hard to have emotional well-being without money touching that. All right? So let's make this a little more confusing. So if financial well-being is that state where I have enough money, I can pay my bills, I can meet my bills coming up, I feel secure with a financial future, that I will have enough. How do we get that financial well-being? Can we have financial well-being without having emotional well-being? Well, as a listener to this podcast, you already are thinking, 80 to 100% of all financial decisions are made emotionally. Why do 3 out of 4 Americans find a need to either borrow or sell stuff to raise $1,000? That doesn't sound like financial well-being. Why are we a nation of spenders? Shouldn't financial literacy solve it all? If we just know how money works, doesn't that create financial well-being? Well, I mean, it can if pragmatically we can go into action and put good financial planning practices into place. But we can't. Why? because of the emotional aspect. We have so much financial trauma, so much emotional baggage around our financial decisions that we can't make good, sound financial decisions because of the emotional wounding, the emotional trauma in our lives. Okay, so what comes first? The chicken or the egg here? What comes first, emotional health or financial health? I don't know. They are just so tied together. And then we got to throw in physical well-being. Is it possible to have emotional well-being and not have physical well-being, or have financial well-being and not have physical well-being? Well, I think in a lot of cases, yes. In some cases, it is possible. And in many cases, it's not. If I don't have physical well-being, can I work? Can I do the things that are necessary to create financial well-being? And I think we can also tie financial well-being directly to potentially having physical well-being, because I have the money to take care of myself physically. I have the money to exercise and the money to go to doctors and to get the treatments that I need to eat the food that's best for me. So we just see so many of these things are so interrelated and locked together that it's quite interesting. Also, when we talk about well-being in the context of what I'm talking about right now, let's take financial well-being. Do you have financial well-being now and forever? Is financial well-being a chronic state, or is it momentary? And I had never really thought about this until the conversation that I had with this young lady. And in the definition, when it says financial well-being is a state, I think that's a snapshot in time. I don't think financial well-being is given, or because I have financial well-being today, that I'm going to have financial well-being tomorrow. And this can make some sense to me, especially when you relate it to a balance sheet. We know that a balance sheet is a list of all the assets I own and their values, and a list of all the debts I owe and those balances. And if I take the debts away from the assets, what's left is my net worth. Hopefully it's a positive. For 15% of Americans, it's a negative. And when a person owes more than they own, that's called being insolvent. In other words, if you had a going out of business sale and sold everything you owned, you couldn't pay off all your debts. 15% of Americans live in that state. So balance sheets change every day. Every day. A person's balance sheet is different. You get paid, your net worth goes up. You spend a lot, your net worth goes down. Markets go up. If you have, say, investments in the stocks, they go up. Your balance sheet changes. Your net worth increases. Stocks go down, your balance sheet changes. So every day it's like a photo. For those of you watching this video, I am older this week than I was last week. Well, you probably can't see that. But if you went back and looked at my videos from 10 years ago, you're going, oh my God, yeah, Rick is old. It's ever changing. It's a snapshot in time. So that's another layer to add to financial well-being. I can have financial well-being today. I can be in a state where I have enough. I have enough to pay my bills. I have enough to pay the bills in the future. And based on what I have today, I'm not worried and concerned about tomorrow. And I have enough today to support my quest for meaning, to purchase things that allow me to enjoy life. That could all change tomorrow. Now, it probably won't change drastically. In other words, if I've got the capacity to absorb a financial shock, I may get a financial shock tomorrow. I may lose my job tomorrow. I may have some huge calamity happen that I didn't have insurance for where I need funds. That doesn't necessarily mean my financial well-being will be taken from me because I have that capacity. So probably saying it could go away tomorrow could be a little strong. But if I have a shock happen tomorrow and I have the financial capacity to absorb that, but I don't have the financial capacity anymore to absorb another one, that could begin to affect my financial well-being. So the new thought I've had is financial well-being is for today. It's for the moment. Well, if that is true of financial well-being, is that true of emotional well-being? That's interesting because I almost think of emotional well-being as a more stable resource. And of course, we need to define what emotional well-being is. And I don't have that for you. Maybe that's for another podcast. Maybe we'll do a series on well-being. But I have a hunch what emotional well-being feels like and looks like. And for me, emotional well-being is serenity. Emotional well-being is really being fully alive, fully present. I think we can tie emotional well-being to the term presence, which is really developed in the study of the Enneagram, being fully alive. Emotional well-being does not mean I am void of difficult emotions, that emotional well-being is not never experiencing sadness and hurt and fear and annoyance and things of this nature. I would suggest financial well-being is embracing all of that. I think financial ill-being is resisting difficult emotions. So I just wanted to make that clear because I make it clear because in the past 25, 30 years ago, if I'd been listening to this podcast, I would have defined emotional well-being as the absence of difficult feelings. I do not believe that's true. That's part of the human experience. So emotional well-being has a quality of being fully aware, of being conscious. For example, being conscious of my relationship with money, of my money scripts, of having worked on especially traumas. I said before on the podcast that a psychologist once told me that the point of doing therapy was to be able to tell your story. So that means being able to tell the things that happen to me in life in a way that I might tell the story of somebody else in a very objective way. So financial well-being, I think that financial well-being is gained possibly more slowly than financial, not necessarily. And there's a correlation between the two, right? The more emotional well-being that a person gains can absolutely translate to more financial well-being. And I have seen that in my financial therapy clients and with my financial planning clients. So again, it's kind of tough. I think one influences the other, but it certainly is possible. For example, there is a physiological tie-in to emotional well-being. There's chemicals in my body that, if absent, I could have a complete personality change and not have the emotional well-being I had in the past. We've seen this with stroke victims or people that have heart attacks sometimes, that their personality changes. So, yeah, emotional well-being could also disappear quickly. And of course, physical well-being, I think we could all agree that physical well-being is a snapshot today and can absolutely disappear tomorrow with, again, a stroke, a heart attack, a car accident that leaves a person disabled in many ways. And of course, that doesn't mean that a person with a disability can't have physical well-being. There becomes a new norm in life and how a person navigates that. So it's just crazily all tied together, which is one of the reasons that the purpose of my financial planning firm, the purpose of the company, is to facilitate the transformation of financial and emotional well-being in people. We don't have the physical in there because we're much less involved with physical well-being. I really believe at some point in time, and I think this was the second podcast I did, I talked about that we're in the well-being business as far as financial planning. And I really believe someday there is going to be a profession, there is going to be a master's in well-being. And it will be a professional that you can go to that's going to coordinate or oversee the well-being of a person in both, the financial well-being, the emotional well-being, and the physical well-being. Or a company that it has all those divisions and brings it all together. So it's a fascinating topic. So I hope that I've been able to give you a little snippet into well-being. In the survey that the researchers did, they asked people 10 questions to determine their well-being, and I just wanted to leave you with these 10. Number 1, I could handle a major unexpected expense. 2, I am securing my financial future. 3, because of my money situation, I feel like I will never have the things I want in life. 4, I can enjoy life because of the way I'm managing my money. 5, I am just getting by financially. 6, I am concerned that the money I have or will save won't last. And of those 6 questions they asked a person, it describes me completely, very well, somewhat, very little. Or it doesn't describe me at all. And then the final 4 were giving a gift for a wedding, birthday, or other occasion would put a strain on my finances for the month. I have money left over at the end of the month. Number 9, I am behind with my finances. And number 10, my finances control my life. And to those, they would answer always, often, sometimes, rarely, or never. So how do you answer those questions? And I don't have that into a form or anything that I can give. I suspect I could probably create that, and it would be interesting, and I don't know exactly how they scored it. It may be in the white paper somewhere. I'm sure it is. So that's it. How much well-being do you have in your life? Are you in the bottom third of Americans that are not experiencing financial well-being? That middle section that it's just there, but it's not abundant, or that third that really can say, yes, I have a state of financial well-being. So thanks for joining me, and I look forward to talking with you next week. Take care. Thanks for joining me, Rick Kahler, for another episode of Financial Therapy. It's not just about the money. This is where I combine the nuts and bolts of financial advice with the emotions that drive making them. Remember, every financial behavior, whether it appears illogical to you or others, makes perfect sense when we understand the underlying beliefs, feelings, and thoughts. Sign up for my weekly blog at financialawakenings.com. I hope you'll join me again for our next episode.